Welcome back to Downtime in the Ring. This episode is going to be a challenge for me and Chris. We have the world's most dangerous game. We have Paragon this week. And he issued a challenge to a lot of wrestling podcasters to not ask the same generic questions. But I think I will start off by asking him. So, in the 1992 Royal Rumble, list your favorite wrestlers from A to Z backwards for me, because that is apparently the most generic questions that every podcast can come up with. And we don't do that here. But if you could try, I would like to see that.
Okay, so you said name my favorite wrestlers in the 1992 Royal Rumble, and you said alphabetical order, but backwards, correct?
Yeah.
So I believe in that Rumble, if I am correct, because was that the third ever Royal Rumble?
That was. I'm not 100% sure. Honestly,
You're the one who asked it.
You asked the question. I threw it right back at you.
I picked a random year, honestly, dude. Honestly, I was like, you know what? I want to see if he'll laugh to this one. I want to see.
But I will tell you this, though, to branch off of that. If you ask me who is my favorite Royal Rumble participant, not winner, but participant, I would say Kofi Kingston. And one of the reasons why I say that is because we said that Shawn Michaels was Mr. WrestleMania. We used to have a debate over who was Mr. Survivor Series because was it Undertaker? Was it Randy Orton? Was it The Rock? Was it Roman Reigns? You know, because you had the people who debuted on that pay-per-view and then the people who just refused to lose on that pay-per-view. But when it came to the Royal Rumble, you have so many winners. But I'm very big on when people ask me, are you in the wrestling business? I say, no, I'm in the movie and moment-making business. Wrestling is about moments. It's about creating stories that live on beyond a match. And I feel like Kofi used to make so many moments that he made you want to go, can just one year he'd win. Because originally, I felt like he was on his way doing that for Money in the Bank at one point in time, especially when, they ended up releasing Shelton Benjamin. So it felt like Kofi was kind of serving that purpose. But I was like, just one year, let me get a Kofi win. Which I became okay with that when he didn't win, because I'm like, you know what? He actually ended up finally winning the big one. But I think it would have been cool if one of his Kofi saves wound up being how he won the Rumble. Like, there's three people, the final three people in the ring, and Kofi is fighting with one guy on the apron. They're going back and forth. And let's say it's Kofi, Gunther, and CM Punk. They're the last three in the Rumble. And Gunther comes in, and he just clobbers both of them. Punk flies off. Kofi flies, and Spider catches himself onto the security wall.
Yes.
And he crawls himself, a callback. And then he gets himself, he climbs up top of the security wall, jumps off, lands on the ring steps. Walter chops him, makes him fall. He lands on his hands. And he's doing all the callbacks to all the different Royal Rumble saves he made. And then finally, he tries to do a springboard into the ring, and Walter catches him. And he goes to throw him out the ring, and Kofi hooks his legs under Walter's armpits, flips him over while holding on to it. And it'd be so cool if it was a series of saves, especially callbacks to previous ones, was the thing that actually kept Kofi in the match and even let him win it. Or even if he doesn't win, that'd be a great way to make whoever wins it earn it. Because you did everything you could, and it was just save. And it was a matter of, like, just using an example of people who have certain moves and finishers. Kofi leaps from the announcer table to land onto the ring apron. And the moment he lands on that apron, you got this nice close-up of a Superman punch from Roman. And it stopped. Because once again, you create a moment right there. Like, I think of if NXT had a bigger platform, we'd be talking about the moment that was created at New Year's Evil that Joaquin Wild just did.
Yep.
Because
DJ-Z.
It was great. And that's what I'm saying. Like, moments mean something. And so when people ask me, like, who's my favorite Royal Rumble winner? I said, I could tell you more so who's my favorite Royal Rumble participant. And it's because moments matter. Like, you could probably say, like, I'll say, what's your favorite wrestling match? And you'll tell me your favorite wrestling match. And one of the first things you might go to is what your favorite moment in the match is. You're not going to break down the whole match. You're not going to break down the chain wrestling, the strike exchange, the the vertical suplex they did, the drop down leapfrog, the arm drag, the arm drag, the arm drag reversal into another arm. You're not going to break that down. What you might break down is homie tried to go for a superplex. And when he goes down, the dude getting superplex flipped through it, landed on his feet, looked back at him. The other guy sat up like, what the hell? And then he kicked him. And we were like, oh, that was some cold stuff. Those are the things you're going to remember, because those things you just like, man, that was such a really cool moment. But then you also think of a moment of no one remembers the triple threat match. What they remember is, and I'm going to say what his name was while he was signed to this company. They remember Daniel Bryan standing on the announce table at 30. Yes, 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 with the titles. They don't remember the triple threat match. They might remember who's in it. Do they remember the match he had with Triple H? They remember the feeling they had when, oh, snap, Bryan's going in. Is he actually going to do it? Because moments are what matter.
So, quick question to build off of the Kofi spot thing. How would you fit the homage to the Kofi care spot into that?
Where he tries to pogo?
Yes,
out
yes.
there. So how I see it is, if you do an homage to the Kofi pogo spot, one thing you could do is have somebody earlier in the match break the announcer table, and somebody tries to eliminate Kofi. He leaps off the apron and lands on the back of whoever just got eliminated. And when they slam Kofi, they might just rip him off and slam him down, but his feet are still up. And Kofi tries to scoot his body, and he lays his feet on the now broken announcer table. As he gets his body on top of it after he recovers, he then takes the chair and pogos over there.
Okay. Dang, now I'm all interested. Now I'm all interested as to what Kofi's going to do, since Woods and E are still gone, unless E returns at Rumble. But
that's for a fantasy booking episode later.
I know.
That's for a fantasy booking episode later on. We are here to interview this man. We will have our Royal Rumble speculations in a week or two. But ultimately, thank you for coming on. Big shout out to one of the podcasts that we sponsor, TZ's Table, co-host of the Swerve City podcast. Love you, Montezi. You guys go check him out. Go help TZ's Table grow. Same as us. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and let's continue this episode.
Side note, Montezi's actually done music for me before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's cool. That's funny.
That's cool.
Sweet,
man.
Yeah, so we have something in common.
Indeed.
That's crazy.
We have a good friend in common. So I have a few questions, not really pertaining to your wrestling, in a way. So explain to me what hashtag tag me in is, or what it was, because I got very interested when I was looking through your social media.
So a lot of people that have followed my journey may know this story, but people who haven't may not. Back in 2019, I was heavily struggling with some mental health stuff. So much so that in a matter of a week span, a Saturday and the following Saturday, I tried to take my own life. I tried it on the first Saturday, didn't work. Tried on the second Saturday, it didn't work. And when that didn't work and I was struggling with all these different things, it kind of dawned upon me that, you know what, I may not want to be here, but I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here for a reason. Because if you try something like that twice on two different occasions and yet you're still here, then you may not know why you're here. You may not want to be here. You may be struggling with that, but you're supposed to be here. And what I realized when I went public about that, because at that point in time, I'm assuming I had a facade and I was wearing this mask of everything was okay and I had everything together and I was the person that made people laugh and I stood up for people. And so a lot of people viewed me as somebody who they didn't go through that stuff. And, I use the likes of like Robin Williams. Sometimes the person trying to make you laugh the hardest is because they want you to feel the opposite of what they feel. And one of the things that I kind of struggled with was feeling like a burden and feeling like I could not help people, feeling like I was all by myself. And I realized that every single day, especially when you're struggling with mental health stuff, You are in the handicap match. You are combating depression. You are combating anxiety. You are combating bills. You're combating the person at work that makes you feel low. You might be combating someone at your home that makes you feel not so great. You're combating, life itself. Life be lifing, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
But the issue is we have decided that we are fighting this handicap match alone, one against the many. And a lot of times it's because we've been put in situations to make us feel that way. Not being able to count on people, not being able to depend on people in the way we need to, or wanting someone to pour into us when they don't have that much to pour into themselves. And at the end of the day, you wake up by yourself, you go to sleep with yourself. It does not matter if someone's lying next to you. You wake up with you. You look at you in the mirror. You go to sleep with you. But no one said we had to face this handicap match alone. And no one said a handicap match had to be one versus many, especially because I played enough SmackDown versus Raw to know you have many different options.
Yep.
And so if you have nobody, you have me. And so that's what my mindset was: tag me in because you don't have to fight this fight alone. Tag me in because you're not the only person in this handicap match. We are all fighting the monsters and these overly sized giants of depression and anxiety, PTSD, triggers, trauma, and so on and so forth. No one said you had to fight this battle alone, and I'll be damned if you go through the crap that I went through. I want to be there I want to be able to be there for you. I want to be able to be there to help you. And sometimes all you have to do is just reach out to your fellow person, your fellow human being, your fellow brother, sister, non-binary, and say, hey, can I tag you in? And if you have somebody who agrees to that, they'll be right there waiting for you.
I like that. I honestly do. I'm not going to try and front face it or try to be like, "Wow, that's amazing." No, I do. We all go through mental health issues. We all need somebody to talk to. Whether it be, there are a few times where Chris has reached out to me where he's been frustrated at work, and I'm like, "Dude, I'll listen to you. Do you need me to give you advice or do you need to vent?" Is usually what I'll say. And I do that with my girlfriend. I do that with my best friends. I understand that everybody needs that opportunity and needs that person. And so I really do respect that. With your permission, we would love to use that hashtag in a lot of our videos that we come out with the future because I think, we want to help support what you're trying to get going. Your hashtag tag me in.
I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, and if anything, side note, I used to sell tag me in shirts and I was getting tag me in armbands made. But around this time last year, someone broke into my car and they stole the tag me in shirts out of there. So I am planning on recouping those and getting back. And I would love to even send you guys tag me in shirts.
Of
Uh,
course.
Represent the cause. Now, I will say this though: it comes with the letter, and the letter that it has is pretty much saying, it's kind of like if you get the Green Lantern's ring, you put on Spider-Man's mask, you're pretty much saying an oath, and the oath is, putting on this shirt, you are saying that if somebody needs you in the handicap match we call life, you will tag yourself in, and when you need somebody in this handicap match called life, you yourself will tag somebody in.
Of course.
So,
We want to make sure that that's the best part about this show. Is the fact that we can give people their flowers. We know that there are a lot of wrestlers, especially young wrestlers, trying to get into this business where, one night they could hear the crowd completely boo them and it might hurt a little bit more than what they thought it was going to hurt originally. Or, sometimes it's tough trying to make a show and you have to cancel because of bills, because of life, because of your bank account, everything. So, we will wear that proudly. We want to help you as much as we can and get the hashtag tag me in movement going. But then this will go into another thing. What was the transition that I can't talk from hashtag tag me in to hashtag anybody can get it?
I'm so glad you asked. So, once again, around this time last year when my car got broken into. So my car got stolen, destroyed, broken into. I had a bunch of valuables stolen, merchandise. I had over $1,300 worth of merchandise stolen out of my car. I had one of my favorite birthday gifts ever. My now fiance, back when they were still my girlfriend, which granted, I don't like the term girlfriend. This is my partner because they are my partner in crime, they're my partner in life, they're my business. Oh, so yeah, what I'm saying is I don't like to use the term girlfriend. This is my partner. But now, we are engaged. And before we were engaged, they bought me a Love Below Andre 3000 varsity jacket.
Oh
And it was black and
no!
pink and had the beautiful roses on it, had Andre 3000 across the back. They stole that too. And they also
Damn.
stole some of my wrestling gear. I
Oh,
was distraught. I was struggling. I was down bad. I was not feeling great. And on top of that, I let my job know, hey, this happened to me. I won't be able to come into work this day because I won't be able to make it into work. I don't have a vehicle. This stuff was stolen over the weekend. And right now I'm waiting to get a rental. Once I get the rental, I'll be in the work. And the job I did outside of wrestling took it upon themselves to then fire me because of that.
wow.
And during the time period, I was struggling with mental health. And during that time period as well, a bunch of people who claimed to be my friends turned out to be users. They were trying to eat off my plate, and I would see that my fork was squeaky clean, but empty was my plate. And their plates were full, yet their forks were dirty. And I'm like, man, it's starting to really suck that I'm having all these people to claim to be brothers in wrestling or sisters in wrestling or friends or family in wrestling keep feeding off me like parasites. And then I got really upset because I have a mixed martial arts background. And I know you said you did your research, so I'm pretty sure you saw when I went through my world star phase where I had the long hair and the purple. People said I was kind of like Rick James meets Lenny Kravitz meets Prince, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And during that time period, I reached out to a promotion out in Phoenix, and they said they loved my look but didn't like my wrestling. And I said, "Oh, I'm not good." And they said, "No, you're good. But when I look at you, I see Prince. And in what world is Prince doing uranagis and bicycle knees and suplexes?" And I'm like, well, one, I'm not Prince. And two, why couldn't Prince? If Prince almost could make the Lakers basketball team when he was in high school, I'm pretty damn sure Prince could do whatever the hell he wanted.
Yep.
And then I had another promoter tell me, they said, hey, what is a list of opponents you would love to face? And so I listed opponents: Calvin Tankman, Isaiah Bronner, O'Shea Edwards, Shane Taylor, Swerve Strickland. I'm naming all these people. And they're like, yeah, but wouldn't you want to face somebody more like a Rich Swann, or wouldn't you want to face more like an Effie? And nothing against these guys, but they kept wanting me to face guys that were either cruiserweights or who had maybe comedy gimmicks or who maybe had more of a gimmick they felt might have matched mine. And every time I would bring up like a heavyweight or a brawler, they would always like, yeah, I don't know. And it started to piss me off because I'm like, don't you realize that anybody can get it? Like, I'm not scared of nobody. My mindset was, who was going to beat my ass? I was 7-0 in mixed martial arts. I was a bad boy when it came to street fighting. Never lost any of those. I'm like, and then I get in that wrestling ring and most people can't out wrestle me. I'm not saying nobody can. I said most people cannot out wrestle me, nor can they outwork me. So I'm like, so how dare you tell me that you don't think I can be in the ring with somebody because you see their hulking presence and you think maybe I'm too funny or I'm too this or I'm too that. And I'm like, just because I am multi-talented and multifaceted, that shouldn't limit me to what I'm able to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when they say you should never work too hard and do too good of a job because your boss is never going to want you to leave that position. They never want you to be promoted. They want you to stay there. And so I just got this mindset where I just started feeling more animalistic. I'm like, no, I'm tired of people eating off my plate. I'm tired of people feeding off me. I'm tired of people that I allowed to sit at my table disrespected. You know what? Just because I don't want you to sit at my table doesn't mean I don't want you to eat. But now I'm going to make sure I eat first. And if you got a problem with it, anybody can get it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've accomplished. I don't care who you've beaten. I don't care where you were signed to, where you're going to be signed to, where you're currently signed to. I'm smoking on your top 5 every single year. And I dare you to step up because anybody can get it. And look, non-binaries, women, men, puppies, babies, mailmen, Darth Vader. I don't care who you are. If you step up, I'm gonna put you down because anybody.
And to go back to your athletic background, I saw that you also had Muay Thai as one of your backgrounds. How do you kind of like infuse that into, like, let's say whatever moves you're ever kind of putting in your repertoire?
So for years, I used to do this move called knee apocalypse, and it was a running bicycle knee from the corner.
Okay.
And so sometimes, if life worked out, I would hit a Muay Thai knee combination, and then I would set it up. So I would give them a pop up knee, pow, duck under their arm, knee them in the gut, grab them in a Muay Thai clinch, give them one bicycle knee there, so they drop down to a knee or all fours. I'd hit the ropes perpendicular to them, collision bicycle knee to finish it off. Or maybe I hit them with something, and as they were feeding up on their feet, and once again they were facing away from me, perpendicular from the corner, rev it up like I'm going for a spear, psych bicycle knee. So that was a definite thing that I used to do. I for a period in time used to do like a flash kick, so it was like a jumping roundhouse that I would do. Or you kind of think of it almost kind of like a Pele or Enziguri kick. And I also used to do a palm strike into a spinning back elbow. Sometimes every once in a while I'll pull it out. I will say I use a lot more of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submission style wrestling as well as catch wrestling now. But every once in a while, you sometimes just got to hit a mofo in the face with a knee. So,
would you ever consider? So we actually do know a catch style wrestler from our previous interviews. His name is Ocean Avery. Would you ever consider going toe to toe with him if you've?
Did you see the hashtag what we just talked about?
I'm
taking
Paragon. I'm taking Paragon.
I mean, you don't have to say that just because we're on the pod.
We were in the car for like 15 hours with Ocean. We traveled. We worked a show with him. I'm taking you. There's a different mindset. We got to learn the dude a little bit more, and I mean, I took his chops. I had his hand imprinted on. No, I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna take you.
Look,
you already saw Chris's face. Chris's eyes were wide open. Me saying that on this show.
Look, my mindset is this when it comes to fights. Period. I'm not someone of the mindset that is like I can't lose. My mindset is I haven't lost yet. And with that same mindset, it's also a matter of when I was growing up, my uncle who did some of the training in my fighting, he told me that if you are going to fight, you aren't going to fight to look good. You're not going to fight for pride. You're not going to fight for ego. If you are fighting, that means you are either ready to die or ready to kill. And so when I went into fights, that was my mindset. And I would give people so many warnings. And I would ask somebody, are you ready to die today? You're not? Then this is not what you want, because I am. And if you aren't ready to potentially have to do life, because first of all, if I knock you out, I have to do paperwork. I have to explain to police why I had to use a deadly weapon, because my knees, my hands, my feet, and my fists were all registered. So I'm already going to have to explain why I had to do what I had to do. Is this a problem that you want to have? When it comes to, the catch style wrestling, I'm not going to say I'm the best catch wrestler, but I'm grimy. I do not like to lose. I have an ego when it comes to losing. I do not like to lose. I'm the type of person that I will tie you up if necessary. I will wear you down. You can try to overpower me all you want to, but I'm going to keep squirming. I'm going to keep squirming. I'm going to keep squirming. I'm going to tire you out. And I'm watching the whole time. I'm watching which way do you shift your weight normally? Where do you place your hands when I pop your hips forward? Where are you trying to catch yourself? Because while I'm watching all this and you're just trying to get me pinned down and I'm watching everything else, then I'm waiting for you to do exactly what I want you to do. I'm going to trap you in something and you're going to ask yourself, how did I lose that fight?
So is like Josh Barnett's Bloodsport somewhere that you deeply want to go? Have you already competed there? I haven't found anything on that.
It would be a goal to go there. I feel like there's steps to it. I'm actually debuting for Paragon Pro Wrestling here on Friday. Well, I'm re-debuting. I wrestled there 5 years ago, but that was before they introduced their UWFI rules. And so their matches can only end via submission or knockout in the middle of the ring. And so I'm going to be going there, and my goal and my plan is I'm gonna try to knock somebody out or tap somebody out. I had 7 mixed martial arts fights, and 6 of them ended by submission, 1 by knockout. That wasn't because I couldn't knock somebody out. It was because I just felt so much joy watching someone give up. Whether it was giving up on themselves, giving up on other people, whether it was watching somebody quit, like that just did something for me. And the only reason why I knocked out that final opponent, my 7th fight was the knockout, was I had a paying acting gig that was going to pay me some stupid money, and it was going to pretty much cover my college tuition. And I was so excited about it because a lot of people don't realize that I have been acting since I was 3 years old. I'm 28 now. So for 25 years, I have been in the acting and entertainment business, whether it was music, musical theater, stage, camera, commercial, whatever. And I had a paying gig that was going to put me on Disney Channel. And I was excited and I was hyped. And I got a cut over my eye.
Oh, no.
And I blacked out. And when I came to, my coach was literally pulling me off the guy as everybody was covering him and stuff. Went to the tryout with my eye stitched up and whatnot. So there's stitches there. And they said, "You're fired."
Damn.
And that was when I was like, this would be my last professional fight. Because 1, I didn't like how I felt after I did what I did. I'm someone who likes to be in control of my faculties. I like to be in control of myself. I'm straight edge. So I don't like to put myself in a situation where something is influencing me. You know, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't gamble. I try to stay away from addictive things if I can help it. So to be so out of control due to my anger, I was like, maybe this wasn't as good for me as I thought it was. But on top of that, a gig that plays $1,200 a week and it's 6 weeks worth of shooting.
What was the show, if you don't mind me asking?
So there's an actress, her name is China McClain. She was on this show called Ant Farm. She also was in a couple of movies. Like she was in Daddy's Little Girls. She was in the Black Lightning TV series. So she has some pretty decent accolades to herself. Yeah. And she was transitioning out of the Ant Farm show. And I believe they were going to be doing a different show because they do a bunch of different pilots that they shoot for Disney. And I was supposed to be playing her idiot older brother who was trying to get into the police academy. But because I was an idiot, I would always find some dumb reason to fail my police test, or I would get on the force and I'd be suspended for something stupid. And they'd be like, so what do you mean you got suspended this week? Boss got mad at me because, we had a high-speed chase and I was going the speed limit. You were going the speed limit during a high-speed chase? Look, I'm a black man in New York. You think they're going to catch me speeding? No.
Okay.
Fair.
And so,
that seems like a great pilot.
And so
fair enough.
I got the boot off the show. They wound up casting somebody else, and then China wound up not re-signing with Disney and wound up doing Black Lightning instead. And when that fell through with her reoccurring for the role, they tried to pitch it to Zendaya. Zendaya didn't want to do it, and when she didn't want to do it, they just squashed the whole show as a whole.
Oh, okay. So now that you are still wrestling, do you still have those acting aspirations? I mean, I know you don't want to do mixed martial arts anymore just because of that, but with seeing, tons of indie wrestlers getting these smaller movie gigs, is that something that you want to pursue? Is that something you want to go through?
Well, to make something clear, it's not that I don't want to get back into mixed martial arts. I think I just want to do it in a different avenue. For me, it's one thing to train. It's one thing to practice. It's one thing maybe to do tournament style for trying to go up belts and things like that. I just don't want to do mixed martial arts where I go back into a cage and I compete that way. It just left a bad impression on me. I don't mind doing, tournament style stuff like a jiu-jitsu tournament, a Muay Thai tournament, a catch wrestling, things like that. But being back in the cage, if it's not a wrestling ring and there's a cage around that, it's not necessarily my jam. But when it comes to acting, the bugs never left me, one of my very first roles was my very first role was an extra in the stage musical Little Shop of Horrors. And I loved it so much that I said, one day I'm going to be the voice of the plant, which is like the villain of the series and one of the main characters. And then when I was in high school, I got to be the voice of the plant. I loved the movie The Color Purple growing up. I loved it so much I read the book. And then as I got older, they turned it into a musical. And I said, one day I'm going to be in the musical. I got to play the second male lead role. And so being able to watch where my career went from a very young age of 3 years old and the roles that I got to have, to me, it's just, I'm up for the challenge. And I'm even willing to say, like, if I have to sacrifice a weekend that I'm supposed to have wrestling for a good enough acting gig that could either give me exposure or a decent IMDb credit, I'm more than willing, because so you guys know who Donald Glover Childish Gambino is, right?
Yes.
He was on SNL one time, and he was like, people say, you know, well, I do music, I do acting, and I do stand-up comedy, and so they want to call me a triple threat. I like to just say I'm a threat, because there's no limit to the things I'm able to do. And I feel the same way about myself. You know, I'm a professional wrestler. I'm a musician. I'm an actor. I do comedy. I am a published poet. I'm a published playwright. I'm like, I have so many different aspects to myself. I'm a threat. And anything that I can do to help increase my presence in wrestling, anything I can do to help increase my presence so that way I can do more with Tag Me In, anything I can do so that way I can buy my mom her dream car and her first house. Y'all didn't kick me out. Y'all heard me bring up my mom and y'all was like, get out.
Oh, man, what happened? I don't know what happened.
Y'all treated me like Denzel Washington when somebody grabs you. Get your fucking hands off me.
Damn.
Oh,
y'all threw me out with the quickness. Y'all treated me like I was Jazz and y'all was Uncle Phil.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I have no explanation for that one.
No, I have no idea. That's the first time that's ever happened. That's hilarious. What do you see yourself doing? And this is a question I ask every single person. I usually have 3. We'll go with the first one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
A lot of wrestlers want to say, like, oh, I see myself signed, or I see myself doing this and doing that. And I don't hate those answers. I just got to speak for me. And in 5 years, hopefully I'm married. Hopefully I have my first kid. And I'm happy. I have seen so many wrestlers in this business, and they have full wrestling schedules. They're wrestling a minimum of 4 times a week. They're traveling all over the country. They're living their dream, and they're not happy. And they're lonely and not happy, or they're lonely or not happy. And all these weird combinations of it. And I don't want that for myself. You know, I want to be happy. And before wrestling, before music, before acting, I said I wanted to be a husband and a father. I would love to be a husband and a father signed to a contract, because that means I get to do wrestling and pay for stuff. Like, you can put my kids in the best schools and put my wife in the house she deserves. But those are my 3 main things. I want to be happy. I want to be a father, and I want to be a husband. Everything else is second. Now, next up on that list is I want a contract, of course. You know, I want to be contracted somewhere. I want somebody to be able to see my talents, you know, in their TV screens and be able to show people who the hell I am, because I feel like I have so much to offer in wrestling. And it's about, you know, doing what you can to increase that platform. But another thing that I see myself in 5 years is figuring out how I can introduce wrestling positively back to the masses. Because wrestling is no longer pop culture. Wrestling is market culture. Wrestling used to be pop culture, and the Attitude Era, which everyone loves and remembers so fondly, killed it. Because if you talk to a modern day civilian who does not watch wrestling and has not watched wrestling in years or whatever like that, they don't call it WWE. They call it WWF. They don't know AEW exists. They don't know Impact exists. They don't know what ROH is. They know WCW and WWF.
Yes.
And with them knowing WWF, they're talking about, oh, middle fingers and beer cans and devil sacrifices and pimps with hoes, and you telling people to suck it. That's how they remember professional wrestling. And because that's how they remember professional wrestling, that's part of why wrestling can no longer be pop culture, because it still has a negative connotation. It's seen as juvenile. It's seen as immature. It's seen as not inviting. It's seen as not everyone's welcome, you know, which is sad, because you can see so many LGBTQ people in wrestling, so many people of color in wrestling. Women's wrestling has had such a boom. that it's starting to main event shows now.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because on the indie level, I definitely feel like it can do better, because there used to be a rule in wrestling, and some places still follow this rule, that you can only have so many black guys on your show. Sometimes you can only have one black guy on your show. And now it's also, you can only have 2 women on your show wrestling. Any other woman has to be a valet or the ring announcer or whatever. And we're still kind of dealing with that. I would love to see women treated a lot more like equals in wrestling, or for there to be more equity. You know, you don't have to have a full women's wrestling show, because that starts to feel like a gimmick and pandering. But what you can do is you can have a women's match and maybe have a woman or femme presenting non-binary person going up against the male, or maybe you have 2 women's matches and a tag team match, or 2 tag team matches and single. Like, stop treating people like they are sideshow attractions and start treating them like they are athletes and they are wrestlers and they're competitors. Yes, you can be an attraction, because we're missing those in wrestling, because once upon a time, you know, a certain name shows up or comes back, and that's where a real needle mover actually appears. You know, when they show up, it means something. I mean, I guess you could argue we're getting that with CM Punk and Roman Reigns right now, because they're not there every single week. So when they do show up, ticket sales go up, views go up, etc. But that's what I'm getting at, is those are the attractions we need. We don't need the attractions of, and look, our show has women and a black guy. Like, let's do better wrestling.
And kind of to mirror what you just said, you posted a question on Facebook that what makes someone in pro wrestling a GOAT and why? So I want to shoot that question back at you. What is the criteria that you would consider? Yeah, I know you had said it's subjective to yourself, but how would you make that criteria if you had to?
If the ball is in my court, because I was purposely leaving it subjective, so I didn't have to answer. But for me, I'm looking at who is an all-arounder. You know, I'm not looking at, oh, well, this person's the GOAT because they're the best wrestler. Okay, and oh, well, this person's the GOAT because they're the best on the microphone. Okay, and I want somebody who is good to legendary on the microphone, good to legend. And granted, there's steps between good and legendary. There's steps between there. But I want you to be good to legendary on the microphone, good to legendary in the ring, good to legendary on how your look looks. That doesn't mean you have to be cut up, but your gear and your presentation have to match. You're good to legendary on when it comes to you putting asses in seats. You're good to legendary to how you are in the locker room and with the other wrestlers. You're good to legendary on how you inspire other people in the wrestling business. And is that inspiration a good or bad thing? And so when I'm looking for someone to say, hey, this person is the GOAT, I guess, and my friends get mad at me for saying this because we argue the LeBron and Michael Jordan debate. But my thing is, okay, well, if you look at LeBron and you look at Michael Jordan, there are areas where Jordan has weaknesses. And the areas that LeBron has weaknesses are good for the average person or the average player. It's only deemed not good because of how well he does in so many other categories, or what you expect a GOAT to have, or it's the issue of, because he's does so well in these other categories, and maybe this category is weaker, and this other person you consider the GOAT is better in that category. Okay, but let's look at all the other categories. Like, you know, to me, also to be a GOAT is how you put people over. How in your defeat, you don't lose your greatness, and you can actually make someone else great. An example of that, when Eddie Guerrero was facing John Cena, when Eddie Guerrero had his feud with JBL, when Eddie Guerrero had his face shoved in Rikishi's keister. You know, when you had all those different things happen to Eddie Guerrero, it never hurt Eddie. It made his opponent.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I'm not even saying he is the GOAT. To me, he's definitely in the conversation. You know, I look at The Rock, for instance. The Rock, in my opinion, what hurt The Rock, some people want to say, oh, well, his promos didn't age well. That's not what hurt The Rock. Oh, well, The Rock wasn't in wrestling that long. I wouldn't say that hurt The Rock either, because the same conversation you can make for Michael Jordan could potentially be the same conversation make for The Rock. It's not a matter of how long you played. It's a matter of how long was your prime and what you did in your prime. And The Rock had a hell of a prime.
Yep.
For me, what hurts The Rock sometimes in GOAT conversations was he was too unselfish. Well, he was too unselfish. The Rock, I believe, had like very few successful title defenses. Not only did The Rock have very few successful title defenses, but on top of having very few successful title defenses, The Rock, I believe the ratio of him beating Stone Cold, even though that was his biggest feud and it felt like a blood feud, was very bad. He rarely ever, barely ever beat Stone Cold, which is why when they wrestled for the third time at WrestleMania, it was such a big deal because he didn't just beat Stone Cold. He beat Stone Cold and Stone Cold was on his way out. It felt important. It felt like a big deal. With Stone Cold, people could say like, oh yeah, well, Stone Cold's the GOAT, but then what's the arguments against him? Well, he's part of the reason why wrestling is no longer pop culture because he aided to, that mindset of middle fingers and whatever. Also, some people say his in-ring work rate wasn't that great because by the time he got to WWF, he was already worn down and beat down and injuries and things like that. So he wasn't doing some more of the moves that a Triple H and The Rock were doing in there. It was a lot of just kind of punches and kicks and occasional slam,
Mm-hmm.
So that's why being the GOAT is subjective. But if you're asking me, I'm looking for who's the all-arounder. I'm looking for your Kurt Angles, your Shawn Michaels, your Eddie Guerreros, to an extent, your Undertakers, your Triple H's, your Rocks, your Stone Colds. A lot of people that are in a lot of conversations, but it's because they fit a certain criteria. That's my opinion on it. If you don't like it, well, I cried 2 tears in a bucket. Fuck it. Do something about it.
So I want to go back to a previous question. Something that you said.
Yeah.
You have the same goal that we do. We want to get professional wrestling back to its glory days, back to where everybody loved it. How are you doing that?
Well, one, I am being what my audience needs. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of wrestlers that are wrestling for them, that are wrestling for the boys, that may even be wrestling for the promoter, but they forget to wrestle for their audience. Some shows want the crazy deathmatch crowd. Some shows want the super indie. Some shows want the Memphis. Some shows want superheroes versus villains, good versus evil. Some shows want the hokey stuff. Know your audience, educate yourself on your audience, and do what you can to entertain them so well. They want to bring people to your show and convince them, hey, no. This is different. You got to watch this show. And then they come and they're like, damn, this is great. I did a show here in Ohio because that's where I'm stationed. I did a show in Ohio for a company called Ohio Wrestling Alliance. They did this show inside of a bar called Standing Room Only. They did it twice. The first time they did it, they allowed kids to actually come to the show and stuff like that. And these kids loved it so much, they tried to go to all of the following shows that were outside of those bars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But then the second Standing Room Only show was definitely a bar show. And I had people walk up to me and say, this is our first time ever being introduced to wrestling, period. And we were so entertained and we loved it so much. And they told this to me. There were a bunch of wrestlers around, but they came up to me because of how much they enjoyed what I did. And they said we were so entertained and we loved this so much that we found out that SmackDown is going to be here next week. We're going to buy tickets to go see SmackDown and see what that's about. So they saw our indie show and that made them want to watch WWE. So for me, part of what I'm doing is I'm trying to know my crowd and actually do my job for them. Another thing is to try to be a positive light in wrestling. There's been so much negativity throughout wrestling. Hell, we have Dark Side of the Ring for a reason.
Yeah.
I want to be that positive light. I'm not perfect, and I'm not trying to be, but I am trying to be the Paragon. My name literally means the model of excellence and perfection. So when I'm a bad guy, of course I'm that. When I'm a good guy and in real life, that's what I'm striving to be every single day in the hopes that I could too make you Paragon-like. I want to bring out the best in people. That's part of why I'm doing the whole tag me in thing, because there are so many people in the wrestling community, from fans to wrestlers to the security guards to the cameramen to the person running the show, the person running the door, so on and so forth, that are struggling with mental health. And so if you have a wrestler brave enough to say, hey, I struggle too, and I'm willing to hurt my image in some people's eyes to be there for you, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being that guy that's saying I'm willing to put myself in a situation that I may not look as tough, but at least you were able to come to me at my merch table and say that because of what I posted, it helps you start the conversation with your friends. Or because you were struggling with something and you come to my merch table and ask me, would it be okay if you and I prayed together after the show? Because that's what you believe in and you're struggling with some stuff. And I made you feel safe or comfortable, whatever may have you. Or a wrestler just letting me know, like, hey, man, I just want to let you know I love you. Because the other day I was struggling and you walked up to me and you gave me a hug and said, you don't know how good it is to see you. And I don't think you realize how much that meant to me. You don't have to be perfect to be a good person. And to me, being a good person, being a positive light, being a positive life outside of wrestling in the community is a great way to do that, to try to make wrestling better. And then one of my goals eventually is I want to start my own wrestling company. And one of my goals in my wrestling company is I want to have the best on my show that want to be the best and represent the best. And when I say that, every wrestling show says that, but my motto is the wrestling company I want to start is going to be called Wrestling Excellence, with the slogan, we are we. Pretty much saying, we are wrestling excellence, not just the wrestlers, but the fans here in attendance. If you are at my show, it's because you love wrestling and you understand that wrestling doesn't love anybody. It is a monster that wants to be fed. And whether you stop being a fan or I stop being a wrestler, it's going to find somebody else to latch onto and feed off of. But that doesn't mean we have to be the bad part of wrestling. That doesn't mean that we can't be nutritious when we're being fed off of. We can be positive lights. We can be the ones that make wrestlers feel good to actually step through that curtain. We can be the wrestlers that make that audience member feel justified in paying for that ticket or that shirt or that merchandise or staying after the entire show just to give you a high five because they were so excited to meet you. So that is one of my another 5-year goal things, jump back to that, is to create a haven for professional wrestling, because I'm probably not going to create a wrestling show that's going to be so super duper big that I'm going to be competing on TV. But I want to create a wrestling mecca that when people come here, they're excited to wrestle. They're excited to see wrestling. They're excited to be a part of it because we're one. We are we. And so these are the things that I'm currently trying to take the steps towards because one, I feel like the Midwest is one of the most underrated places when it comes to wrestling because everybody thinks their wrestling is great. Everybody, the East Coast thinks they're great. West Coast, New York, Florida, Atlanta, Illinois, mostly Chicago. Everybody thinks their wrestling is the shit. Granted, everywhere you go, they have shits wrestling, But the Midwest has had so many diamonds in the rough and so much great wrestling that doesn't always get certain exposure. And one of my goals is to build up when I do finally start it. So that way I can create a show that is looked at the way that Pro Wrestling Guerrilla is and how they have the Battle of Los Angeles. I want to have the battle for the Midwest.
Okay.
And that's another goal I want to have. So that way I can have a showcase not only of the best wrestlers from the Midwest, but wrestlers who stay wrestling in the Midwest and stay putting in the work and things like that. Like you may be from Florida, but you literally spent months in the Midwest wrestling and things like that. So I want to do something like that feels like, hey, we can still have fun and we can still wrestle our style. We can still come here. Fans can enjoy themselves. And it feels like it's a party. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of wrestling and this thing that we love. So these are some of the things that I'm trying to do to, one, make wrestling fun, to two, make wrestling better, and three, a lot of these indie promotions don't realize that if we make indie wrestling more digestible and we make it more accessible, then that makes other people want to then watch more wrestling on TV. If more people watch more wrestling on TV, the fan base grows, which then gets that fan base put right back into the indies, and it becomes this beautiful cycle of the snake eating its own tail. Yep. And so that's kind of one of the things I also want to do. I want to put some life back into the indies in any way that I can. And in doing so, it can kind of help bloom the business as much as possible.
I can't even ask what my what do you want your legacy to be? Because you've already said most of it.
I mean, I can answer that for you. When everything is said and done, I want to be remembered as somebody who left wrestling better than I found it. And I want to be somebody who is remembered fondly. And the reason why I say that last one, back in 2014, 2012. I got my years mixed up. Back in 2012, a cousin of mine at the young age of 45 passed away, and I went to his homegoing service because in my family we don't believe in funerals unless we don't know where you're going in the afterlife. But I went to his homegoing service, and you would have thought it was a nightclub. We had to turn people away because so many people wanted to show up and say their goodbyes to my cousin. And that left such a grand impression on me because I'm like, man, he touched so many people positively that these people wanted to share their stories and say their goodbyes, etc. And so I want that. When I'm gone and I'm not here anymore, I want to have to turn people away. I want people to share their memories and share their stories about how I made them laugh, how they felt loved, how they felt cared about, how they felt seen, how I came on their podcast, how, you know, I went to their house and made them dinner. Like, I want to be remembered in a way that when I'm gone, I'm never forgotten. Because I kind of believe in that mindset. If you've ever seen Coco, like when the last person who remembers you is gone, you know, you're gone forever. I want to be able to live forever. And that doesn't have to be with a TV contract, with a Hall of Fame accolade, tapes on. No, like you can be remembered by, hey, you know, once upon a time, I went to this wrestling show and there was this purple dude. I may not be able to remember his name, but I remember his face. And he was draped in all purple. And I remember I was sitting there in the audience and he was fighting this guy and he scoops me up and he uses my feet as a battering ram and he knocks the guy out and then he sits me back in the seat and gave me a high five. And then I went to school and I told all my friends about it and they were telling me how cool I was, man. It was such, man, I wish I got to know what happened to that guy. Something like that where a guy can't remember my name, but he remembers how I made him feel is something you can't take away. You know, Maya Angelou once said, people may not remember what you said and often will forget what you did, but they will never forget the way you made them feel. And if I can make you feel something and that's a positive feeling, I want that to be my legacy.
Wow, this has been an inspiring episode. Really
been a very inspiring episode.
So let's kind of move away from more of the emotional stuff and talk about like the fun, the projects that you're doing. And when I say that, Chris has a clip that he sent me from you.
Yeah, so it was the first clip that when Donovan had told me, hey, we're gonna interview this guy. Okay, let me do a deep dive, and I stumbled upon this one. It was on, I think it was on a podcast. I forget what it was exactly, but you not only do you not like the typical wrestling questions that podcasters, but you also have a list of things you also don't like. Yeah, so I want to, if you don't mind, like to list off this entire list myself.
Go right ahead.
So, list of things that Paragon doesn't like.
Do you have part 1 and part 2 or just part 1?
I believe it's just part 1. If you have a part 2, hey, it's 2024. Let's add to that list afterwards. So, fish, dogs, rabbits, cats, mosquitoes, ants, pill bugs, potato bugs, June bugs, graphite, limestone, moths, teachers, principals, students, mailmen, male women, male people for those that are non-binary, toenails, fingernails, people who stand in line too close to you, people who ride the escalator the wrong way because it's funny, people who jog for exercise early in the morning and at night because you said it was crazy, people who wear shorts too high like it's the 70s, people who say hoochie daddies, de facto me because I just said hoochie daddies, probably, people who say zaddies, men, non-binaries, and nothing. So again, like I said, do you have anything to add to that list?
Yes. So my opponent for this weekend on Saturday, Daniel Leeds, you can add him to the list of things that people I don't like. You can add people who fart and then blame other people for it. You can add people with halitosis. And there's different types of halitosis. There's your breath smells like balls, your breath smells like butt, your breath smells like garlic, your breath smells like onion. Your breath smells like old orange juice. Your breath smells like you brushed your teeth and somehow missed your tongue. Your breath smells like, you ever like smell somebody who smell like funk and they sprayed themselves with cologne, and so it smells like you brushed your teeth and get your still how managed to be funky.
Yeah.
So all the different types of halitosis. People who don't wash up under their arms, people who don't wash up under their ass, people who don't lift the balls to wash underneath them because now the gooch is just stanky. I don't like people who got toe jam, people who got sock fuzz between their toes, people who got dirty toenails, people who got dirty fingernails. I don't like when my cat is licking his paw too much. Is it that damn good that you're licking your paw? You're not even wiping yourself, you're just licking your paw. I don't like people who know their angles. That's a catfish. I don't like people who use filters. That's a catfish. Yes, it is a catfish because they be over here and they do this stuff right here and they got all this neck they didn't have before. God damn it. You meet them in person and they look like Jabba the Hutt. God damn it. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like people who smell like Fritos. I don't like people who say hi to you in the morning when it's too damn early. I don't like when you greet somebody and you say hi and they don't respond, but they made eye contact with you and they heard damn well what you said.
I hate it. I hate it.
Can't stand that. I don't like when people say bye. It's see you later. Bye is forever. See you later. It's actually going to see you eventually. Once. I don't care if I don't see you until the afterlife. Damn it. That's later. God damn it. I don't like people who try to be funny because if you don't speak French but you want to say arrivederci, I'm gonna arriva yo dirty right out of my goddamn house, and that might be Italian. I don't give a damn. What I don't like people that try to correct me. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm big. You're small. I'm the adult. You're the child. And I quoted Danny DeVito. I don't like Danny DeVito, God damn it. And the reason why I don't like Danny DeVito is because there's a bunch of people out here claiming to be bad bitches, but they're built like Danny DeVito when he played the Penguin in Batman. Yes, I went in, okay? Because there's too many people out here claiming to be attractive, and they look like CeeLo Green. I didn't said it. I stand by it. So you up there laughing because you know I'm right.
Speak your truth. Speak truth.
Okay? I don't like people that argue for the sake of arguing. I don't like people who just want to be right instead of trying to be human. I don't like people who say the fuzz instead of police. What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Who hurt you? Go find therapy. I don't like people that are against therapy. I don't like anybody that's in the isms or the ists. So if you're racist, if you're sexist, if you're homophobic, xenophobic, if you don't like grandmas, because I like me a gilf. I don't like grandmas, but I like me a gilf.
List those icks.
List those right now. I can go for some gilf and cookies right now, but that's a different conversation, God damn it. Talk about what I don't like.
And so says the world's most dangerous game. Anything else, Donovan?
Try not to cry, dude, when he said wipe your ass.
Which one got you? Which one was it that got you?
It was the people that don't wipe their ass. That one got me. I don't know why, but the way you said it, I was like, no, I can't. I muted my mic, and I was like, I gotta get out of frame. I gotta get out of frame for that one.
I'm just saying, you know that person that walks around and you're like, did you wipe good? Because I can smell it. You know what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about. Also, and granted, I know I'm older now, so it shouldn't bother me anymore, but this is where I think my hate for stuff happened when I was a little kid, and every dude knows this. There's always that one little kid that y'all went to the bathroom, and he felt the need to pull his pants all the way down and then put his shirt up here like this to go pee. I hate that.
Under the chin.
I hate that kid. I also don't like the kid that drinks and they breathe it in the middle. Go.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, why do you sound like the chubby kid from the PJs every time you drink? I don't like that. It pisses me off. You know what I'm talking about. She pisses me off. Make me flop my jacket like that. I get mad. Flop my jacket. Piss me off.
Oh shit. So we just got. Yeah, that has to be the funniest moment of the year, and we just barely started. So let's see. But so explain, because before we started recording, you said that you had joined a group of podcasters. Can you let us know what you're doing? Is that the channel In Your House?
Yes. In Your House, and house is spelled HOWSE after the founder of the podcast, Alakhan Hollywood House.
So what is that about? What do you guys talk about?
So here's the thing. We talk a lot about wrestling. It is a wrestling podcast. We also dive and delve into other stuff as well. Because there have been times that, especially during the summer of 2020, we actually had the Black Wrestlers Caucus, where we had a bunch of Black wrestlers talk about their experiences in the wrestling business and in society during the Black Lives Matter movement. We sometimes talk about things going on in the world that don't always have to pertain just to wrestling. So there are a bunch of different things we talk about, but we are a wrestling podcast. And uh Alakon Hollywood House, I call him Khan, and he's managed me as a wrestler. He and I are really cool, really good buddies. We've been working on music together. And he pretty much told me, he's like, I need you to be my Shannon Sharp. He's like, one thing that I like about podcasts outside of wrestling is they will bring an expert or someone who was in the field into the podcast. Yeah, you may be someone who's an aficionado and you studied and you know the terms, you went to the games, you're a journalist or whatever like that. They're like, but to have someone who played or someone who plays and who knows people, you know, I know Paul George kind of does that on that podcast he's on. And so he's like, I need you to be that for me. Someone who actively is in wrestling, who's friends with people who are signed to contracts, who has dates, you know, that he does during the show and stuff like that. But we go in. Sometimes we get funny, we get deep, we get real. Sometimes I'm the devil's advocate, which sometimes they hate or love. But I give that perspective of being real. And that's what I'm always going to do. I'm going to give you the perspective of somebody who is in the business, and I'm going to play devil's advocate because we have one person on the podcast who has spent some time as a manager, one person that's gotten their feet with as a manager a little bit in wrestling, another person who is solely a wrestling fan who loves it and is a wrestling reporter and journalist. But then there's me, and I am a wrestler. I've been doing this for the longest time out of the people in the podcast. I've traveled. I mean, between me doing Canada for the first time this month, I'm doing a show in Wisconsin, 2 shows in Indiana. I've done shows in North Carolina, the state of Delaware. Like, I can list off all 17 places that I have 17 states I've wrestled and countries I've wrestled in. That experience allows a different perspective, which I believe adds to the whole, you know, difference from us and other podcasts. But then on top of that, I do my little segments when I have the time to. I have to be honest, because a lot of people want to schedule crap on Tuesdays with me. But what I do is I do my angry review, my pissed off P reviews, because they always say I'm always.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're always claiming I'm always angry. So I give my pissed off review of the shit I don't like in wrestling, and normally it's NXT, because I feel like I said, NXT, if it had a bigger platform, people would understand that NXT is still good. It went through its growing pains, as we all do. I mean, look at AEW right now. When AEW started off, people thought, oh, this is hot, this is great. And right now it's going through growing pains. But you know what happens after growing pains? You grow. Yeah. You know, they call it growing pains for a reason, because there's discomfort in growth. But once you grow, ain't no stopping you. And so,
or ugly stretch mark in that of CM Punk's ordeal, but mind you, digress.
I'm gonna look at it like this, because I wasn't there for the situation. I don't know the situation, and I even get mad at my podcast because I'm like, stop making me defend CM Punk. I don't like doing this. But it's very easy to place the blame on somebody, especially when you get to certain closeness as a fan. Like, this is one of the things we talk about in the group chat for the podcast. You know, there's times where someone was so hyped and so excited for CM Punk to be there, and then it didn't go the way they wanted it to. But at the same time, though, there were problems before CM Punk got there. There are problems after CM Punk got there. There will be problems that will continue. Just like there's going to be problems in WWE before CM Punk came, left, came back. That's the nature of how the world works. Some people just aren't a good fit. Some people aren't a good fit at certain periods in time. Certain people outgrow one another. I mean, hell, I have friends that got married, got divorced, years went by, got in other relationships, got married to other people, even had kids by other people, and then got divorced and found their way back to each other. Because sometimes you're not ready for something, or ready for someone, or ready for a certain situation. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're having a conversation, but one of you is listening while the other one is hearing. Yeah. And so when it comes to even that ordeal within itself, I'm like, I don't know, because I wasn't there. But what I do know is I have been in many situations where I may have been a good puzzle piece, and that may have been a good puzzle that didn't mean I belonged in that spot. Even if it appeared I fit in that spot due to the shape of me and everything like that. Cool shape, but I'm a Star Wars puzzle trying to fit in a Barbie puzzle. Yeah. And yeah, my puzzle piece fits in a matter of size, but I don't belong here. You know, now there may be a Barbie Star Wars crossover that I might fit in perfectly. You never know. But right now, I don't fit. And so that's kind of how I look at that situation. Certain things just don't fit, but that also comes with growing pains, you know, because there are physical growing pains and there's emotional growing pains. You know, the first time you had heartbreak, the first time you fell in love, the first time you got heartbroken by the person you fell in love with. I mean, shoot, since I have been in the professional wrestling business, I just celebrated my 6-year anniversary a few weeks ago. I've been engaged twice. I've been in like 4 relationships. I have dated a plethora of people. But you know what? I also got to find my person. And I found somebody who supports my dream and goals. I found somebody who, and here's what I love about her. I used to be in relationships where when people would introduce me to people, they would go, oh yeah, he's this and a wrestler, or he's this, but he also wrestles, or he's a wrestler, he does this. And my fiance, anywhere we go, she's like, yeah, he's a wrestler. In period. He's a wrestler. And she puts that on Front Street because she supports it. And she may not understand it all the time. You know, she may not understand the wrestling stuff because she's not a wrestling fan. She's a fan of me. And she's been able to be around wrestling enough to understand a good match and a bad match. And she'll tell me if she feels like I didn't give my best. One time she told me, and this threw me all the way off, she says, you were the best part of a bad show and you weren't even that good. And I was like,
oh.
But the thing is, because she is my partner, I love to hear that shit. Because one, you can't grow without criticism. And what I love about her is too often we want to show things to some of our peers. You got to have that person that is the masses, the person who, you know, is not the clientele you're wanting, because I'm not a wrestler. I'm a brand, and I'm a brand in the professional wrestling business. So I want somebody who's never seen wrestling before to want to buy into my brand, to buy my merchandise, to want to come see me wrestle, because that's how you create new fans. Yes, I want to make sure I get the fans already here, but I want new fans, you know, because I want someone to look at my brand and go, I like that. I want that. That's something I want to buy into, even outside of wrestling, because I'm not a wrestler. I'm a brand. And I feel like a lot of people need to start thinking that way when it comes to their business. I don't care if you own a restaurant, if you have a podcast, if you have a YouTube channel, if you are a masseuse, if you are a dominatrix, I don't care what you do. You're a brand first. And I feel like that's extremely important in wrestling because it's called the professional wrestling business. Actually, I got to do it this way. The professional wrestling business. The fans will see it that way. So that means that you have to be twice about your business as you have to do about your wrestling. And so looking at myself as a brand, I think that gives me an advantage, a leg up. I don't know. That's just me. To quote Paulie from Sopranos, hey, fuck do I know?
No, I completely agree with that. That we still have to treat this as a business. We have to treat this as a brand because especially because we had just me and Chris, we were just discussing the latest episode of the Swerve City podcast. They had CVV on there. And one thing that I took away the most is the way that he said he takes care of his brand, he takes care of his channel, that he treats it like a job, even when he wasn't making, you know, tons of money like he is now, or he was interviewing, you know, amazing people. Was if he put one video out for a job compared to putting one video out for a media company, he would be fired in a week. So why would he not put the same amount of effort into something that, yes, he's not making money in yet, but what if he does? What if he makes that money? What if he does that thing the same way how you know, you treat the locker room as if they are a contracted company? Because that day that you do get to the contracted company, I'm going to assume that you're going to understand your role. You know, you're the new guy. You're going to have to stay and clean up, but you're also going to be the guy who probably goes out there and tries to learn as much as he can from everybody, because that's just probably your work ethic. At least that's what I'm getting.
Oh, I mean, 100%. And the thing is, a lot of people don't realize that when you go to new companies, you're always going to be the new guy.
Yeah.
You want to go to new companies to expand and increase and make your brand more. So you're always going to be the new guy. And when you're always going to be the new guy, you truly have to take it upon yourself to make those good impressions, to make those sacrifices, to pay those dues, to eat crow, because that not only gets noticed, but it also can help you get into other places. Like I have gotten bookings based off of my etiquette. You know,
Really?
I've gotten bookings based off of, you know what, man, this person was in a locker room and they were doing this and they were doing that. Hey, I also run a wrestling show. You want to come work for us? Whatever, whatever. What do you need? How much money do you need to come in?
Yeah.
Whereas I've seen some people and they had the match of the night, but because of their etiquette, they were asked to never come back.
Really?
Because a
Wow.
lot of
Believe
people
it.
think you can be a good wrestler. That's not enough in this day and age. You got to be a good wrestler with the social media presence. You have to be entertaining. You have to have good locker room etiquette. You have to be respectful. You have to have a record that makes them feel like I'm okay with having you on my show because I don't have to worry about losing fans. There's a whole domino effect of the things you need to succeed in wrestling. And I think the best advice I was ever given was by Robbie E.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Robbie E, which now is Robert Strauss on NXT. And he gave me the best advice, and he made it very simple too. It was very simple. It was very plain. Um, he said, "Being generous. Every single state in the U.S. has 1,000 wrestlers. Now, every single country, their version of a state, also has 1,000 wrestlers across the entire world. But currently, there are only 100 spots in wrestling. And with these 100 spots, these are the 100 spots where you're saying, I'm just a wrestler. Now, I'm a wrestler and simply saying, I'm a wrestler. And with every single company out, and at this point, AEW didn't exist yet. With every single company out, there are 100 spots in wrestling. What are you going to do to earn one of those 100 spots?"
True.
And so every day that I hop in those long car rides away from my family that I could be spending with my fiance, because she's in med school, so I don't get a lot of time with her. She's out the country. Um, all those times where, my mom's in town, like for instance, she's in town right now. Her birthday's on Friday, turning 55, doesn't look it. I have to go to a wrestling show. I miss birthdays. I miss weddings. I miss anniversaries. I miss first hellos and last goodbyes. I miss funerals, all because I'm chasing this dream. And so because of the sacrifices I make, when I get in that car, when I miss these important things, when I step through that curtain in front of that audience, it's me doing whatever I can to earn one of those spots and be different from whoever else is in that building.
Yeah. I wanted to see if you were up for a debate, and it was going to be on. I'm 26. Chris is 27. You're 28. We're all roughly the same. I know a bunch of young wrestlers who are less than 5 years in the business. And the one thing that throws me off the most is we will post immensely about this brand, but a lot of wrestlers currently today who are training, who are trying to get out there, we've gotten to interview the best of them, the Brook Havocs, the Academias, who constantly post, constantly put out content. And we've met people who barely post. Why is that? Why do you deem that? Because
I
if they're
truly,
trying to fight for one of these 100 spots, they're not obviously putting out the content to get seen, and everything's free nowadays.
I think, here's my mindset of it. Social media isn't for everybody. And once upon a time, it didn't have to be for wrestling. Once upon a time, to reach out to a wrestling company on social media was deemed offensive and disrespectful. And now it can be standard.
Mhm.
You know, there are people that also, due to some of their social stuff and social cues, they don't understand how to navigate social media. I'm gonna be honest with you, most professional wrestlers are nerds. There are so many professional wrestlers that were the kids that got bullied in high school. So who's gonna know how to be cool and know how to use social media when you were the kid being bullied and didn't know how to do it back then, unless you learned some stuff or took a class, whatever may have you. I think a lot of people that don't post a lot of stuff either A, don't understand who they are in professional wrestling just yet, B, don't understand and know how to use social media to their advantage. C, something happened that hurt their fan base, and that may be why they stopped posting as much, they stopped caring as much. Or D, they're lazy. It's very easy to call somebody lazy, but I feel like there's certain things that might go before that. Like for instance, with me, the pandemic hurt my fan base a lot. I felt like I lost a lot of my fan base and my reactions when 2020 happened. I also know for a fact that when I made that post at the end of November, December in 2019 about my mental health, I lost some fans about that too. I gained some fans, but I lost some fans too. And it sucked because one thing I noticed was when I was doing like tag me in more constantly, and I'm hoping to get back to that. I will say having your stuff stolen that was for mental health, as well as proceeds to my shirts went to mental health funding. So like that really sucked, and it kind of wore me down. But it's like it would also suck when I would post something about mental health and mental health awareness, and it would get like anywhere from like 20 to 100 shares, and I would get at least a third of my friends and followers or half of my friends and followers reacting to it. And then I post a post about wrestling, a promo I put my heart and soul into and did all this editing by myself and bought equipment. Like I bought this 360 Bluetooth thing that follows you as you move.
I noticed that you had that.
And I got this cinematic camera now, the cinematic mode I put on my camera. I have the tripod. I have a microphone clip and the thing that I put. So I'm doing all these things to up my production, especially because when I get in full Paragon animalistic mode and I got on the fur and I'm looking at that camera like I'm stalking my prey. So I put my heart and soul into this. And then I get so many views and I get so many likes. And I think that can also wear somebody down when they're like, the crap that I'm not putting effort into is getting responses, but the things that I'm doing to actually, promote myself, like for instance, that podcast post that I made got a lot of love. Got some hate, got some DMs and stuff like that, but it got engagements, it got interactions. But I've posted stuff before that and after that if I'm lucky, I get somewhere to like 20 to 70 people to react to it. Now, some posts, I get a bunch. Let me win a new championship, and everybody's going to congratulate me, and I get maybe over 100 reactions and things like that. Let me post, hey, I have a show coming into this town, and all these people have been asking me when I'm going to be wrestling here again. And I may get the people that are asking me when am I wrestling again in the same, 12 people I normally get. And that can be disheartening, but it's also part of the hustle.
Yes.
And I think that's also maybe some of the issue with, I don't even want to say just the younger generation. I see with some of the older generation too. Some people don't understand or lack the hustle. You have to be willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. It's that growing pains thing we talked about. You got to be able to be uncomfortable. You have to be able to have discomfort. You have to be able to get criticism. You have to be able to be told something's not working. You have to be able to tell, I don't think it's a good idea. Because you know what? If I had a nickel for every single time that someone told me they didn't like the name Paragon and wanted to make suggestions, well, the Paragon or Paragon this or whatever, because they didn't like the name. I even had a booking tell me, I love the promo that you sent for the tryout, but I hate your name. So would you be willing to change your name if you worked for me? No, it's my brand. I've been through a whole hell of a lot for my name and my brand. Just simply throw that away. But I was willing to go through the growing pains of people not understanding the name and not knowing how they felt about it. But you know what I also went through? I went through having 4,000 people chanting my name for a whole 30 minutes to an hour while I had bigger names in wrestling in the locker room, such as Chris Masters and Carlito and Santino Marella and Derek Young. And yet all this stuff is going on. People chanting my name when people who are signing contracts are in the building. The name that I was told wouldn't get chanted, wouldn't be put on the flyer, people wouldn't like. I can't hear anybody wanting that name in their mouth. And yet here I am 6 years later, and I had a crowd at one of my last two shows chanting Paragon's gonna kill you at my opponent.
Yeah, Paragon's gonna kill you. Yep.
That's inspiring.
And you were on a list, weren't you? You're number 326 of
PWS
of black wrestlers of
black wrestlers.
Yeah,
yes.
black wrestlers throughout the world. So they've been doing this, I want to say, for like 5 years now. Every once in a while they forget I exist and they leave me off the list, but I'm not mad because one, it's cool to be acknowledged. I don't do it for the list. I do this for the younger version of me who saw guys like The Rock and Eddie Guerrero and Monty Brown and Kate Quick / Ron Killing / R-Truth, who saw guys like Shelton Benjamin. And though I saw things about them that I liked, I kept thinking to myself, I don't see me. I do this for the kid who, when Eddie Guerrero passed away, he looked up at heaven and said, I'm going to become a wrestler for you. I do this for the kid who was told he was too small, for the kid that was told that he wouldn't be good enough. I do this for the kid who graduated from wrestling school and had his own family telling him he needed to quit, because that kid got to see his naysayers become believers. That kid got to see those same family members asking when his next show was and them buying merchandise. That kid got to see his last living grandmother come to one of his wrestling shows and buy a shirt before she passed away not that long ago. And her telling all of her friends, yeah, this my grandbaby on the shirt. This my grandbaby.
Good shit.
He's a wrestler. He whooped your grandbaby's ass. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. Nah. I do this for the kid who felt like for so long he didn't belong in his own family, his own skin, his own whatever. And yet he can go through a curtain and feel loved, feel hated, feel something. So,
wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
we got deep again. My bad.
Yeah, this was like our deepest episode ever. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this episode. But before we go away, one, we're gonna have you back on because we didn't really get into too much. We got more into your outside life than Paragon the wrestler. And you are a friend of the pod, man, if you want to be, because we would love to have you back on again and just chat. It doesn't even have to be about you. If you have anything to complain about, if you want to try and debate something that you can't debate on your podcast because you don't want to piss anybody off.
I love debating though. Like I said, I hate people who argue, but I love to debate. And the reason why I say I love to debate is because that means you are putting your emotions out of it. Mm-hmm. You are being unbiased and you're using facts to back up your argument. Like if I tell you that the ruthless aggression era is the greatest era in professional wrestling and you feel like it's the attitude era, okay, let's discuss. Because you may bring up, well, it was the end of pop culture. And I may say, and it's also where it ended. You may say it had more money. I may say we had better wrestling. You may say we had better storylines. I may say you had Jerry Springer's story. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm all here for the debate. I love it. And if y'all ever want me back, just hit me up and let me know. Like for instance, you reached out to me and I was like, can you do tomorrow? So yeah. Y'all, if y'all let me know and y'all give me just enough of a heads up or time, I may say, are you free today? Granted, I will say a rough time period typically is Friday through Sundays due to wrestling and traveling, but you never know. You may hit me up and I'm like, shoot, I ain't doing shit. Let's do it. So,
all right. Where can everybody get a hold of you?
So you can reach out to me on Instagram at @the_Paragon. That is at @THE_Paragon. You can find me on X or the Twitter machine, whichever one y'all want to call it these days. And that is the Paragon 23. Same thing on Snapchat, the Paragon 23. Same thing on PlayStation, the Paragon 23. Same thing on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok. I do impressions. I do skits. I do music. And also, a lot of people don't realize this. My little brother is actually going to be joining professional wrestling here soon. So you may see him all over my TikTok. Please forgive him. He's going to be a lot. But look out for my little brother. Look out for some of my music I have going on. You can find me on Facebook, Paragon on Facebook. If you are cool and you're not weird, then you can add me on my personal Facebook page, Paragon Christoph St. James. You can also follow my motivational page. You can also follow a couple of other different things that I have. I mean, I can send the things to you guys and y'all can post whatever like that. But also on YouTube, go on my YouTube, watch my matches. And also, if you like the stuff I put on TikTok, I might put some of those things on YouTube because I'm all about doing skits and things like that. And also, I was a script writing major when I was in college. I'm multifaceted. I like to entertain the peoples. So you can find me wherever you want to, but just don't find me home. Because you find me at home, anybody can get it. I'm just saying.
Solid.
Yeah.
Solid.
All right. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, not just to us, but in your house where you can catch Paragon. Just giving it to everybody. And we'll see you in the next video.